guys good? If you're good to go.
Welcome to today's Hinckley Forum. My name is Rory Stewart. The Hinckley Institute of Politics is a nonpartisan institute at the University of Utah. The Hinckley provides an array of transformative experiences for students through internships, forums, and classes. Hinckley Forums seek to foster public discourse and civil debate on the most current and pressing issues, bringing in local, national, and international thought leaders. Today's forum is about a project known as the Dignity Index. At this polarized moment in U.S. politics, the University of Utah and Project Unite have joined forces to make political and public discourse more productive. Unite was founded in 2018 by CEO Tim Shriver in an effort to help ease divisions, prevent violence, and solve problems. In 2021, in partnership with the Hinckley Institute, the nonprofit developed the Dignity Index, an 8-point scale that measures how people talk to each other when they disagree, ranging from 1, which shows total contempt for the other side, to 8, which shows dignity to everyone, no matter what. We are excited to welcome back two Hinckley Institute alum who are now leaders at the Dignity Index Project. First, we have Madeline Jones, and she is a program associate for higher education and trainer at the Dignity Index, where she leads efforts to embed dignity-centered practices within college and universities. She first joined the Dignity Index during its 2022 pilot at the University of Utah, where the project's impact inspired her to co-found Students for Dignity, a student-led initiative that brings dignity to campus conversations. Madeline holds a multidisciplinary background in political science, psychology, and sociology from the University of Utah. During her academic career, she contributed to education and public policy through her work on development team at the Granite Education Foundation and as an intern for the Office of Legislative Research and General Counsel at the Utah State Legislature. Today, Madeline is helping to drive cultural change by equipping higher education students with the tools to lead with dignity by fostering awareness and adoption of the Dignity Index. She supports the next generation to cultivate a culture where dignity is shared and shared lived value. David Witt is a program associate for research and program evaluation with the Dignity Index, where he supports the development of the annual report on dignity, the Dignity Leadership Summit, and data collection efforts. He was involved with the Dignity Index pilot project and has professional experience in the nonprofit and mental health sectors, focusing on crisis response, youth support, and community impact, and international initiatives. He holds a Master of Public Administration with a double major in Peace and Conflict Studies and International Relations from the University of Utah. Rooted in his personal mantra, empower yourself, your community, then the world, he believes that the principles of the Dignity Index empower himself and others to foster constructive dialogue and promoting positive societal change. So please join me in welcoming our guests.
A little bit of group work in about 10-15 minutes. So if you guys can get up and sit next to someone or sit around someone, that would be great. I'm going to do it now before you guys get too cozy. So I'm going to take you guys through the index. I'm going to show you guys how to score. We're going to go through a couple of ways you can apply this on campus. But before we do that, I want to show you guys a little clip from our CEO. She's not our CEO, but I swear she should be. No offense, Tim. He could still stay on. This is her story around the Dignity Index.
I'm Tammy Pfeiffer. I'm a co-founder of Unite and co-creator of the Dignity Index. I worked for Utah Governor Gary Herbert as his education policy advisor, and toward the end of my time with the governor, I joined Unite. I have a background in education and taught at Utah State University for 10 years. This is a picture of my son, Nate. Nate is a musician. When I was in the governor's office, I was contacted by a group of young students who were learning how to be entrepreneurs, and they were starting businesses. This one group of students, they are about 7 to 10-year-old students, were creating portraits. If you sent them a photo, they would create a portrait. And I've always loved this picture of Nate so much that I sent them this picture along with $6, and this is what I got back. I love this photo, the blue beard, he looks pretty cool. It kind of captures who he is as a musician. Nate loved this so much that it's hanging in his studio, and I loved it so much that I wanted them to do me. So I sent this picture of my husband and I. We're tan, we're happy. It was one of my favorite pictures. This was at a birthday dinner. $6 later, this is what I got back. Ouch. Sometimes it can be painful when the way that you see yourself is dramatically different than other people see you. Now, granted, these were 7 to 10-year-olds, but it still hurt just a little bit. Some of the things that we're talking about today may give you a different perspective on yourself. I hope it's not this painful, but I invite you to take a look. Now that you've met my husband and my son, I want to introduce you to the rest of my family. This is the Pfeiffer clan. This was taken on a road trip to Montana that we took in July of 2021. This trip could not have happened in 2020, not because of COVID. It couldn't have happened in 2019 or 2018. And again, it wasn't COVID. It wasn't that we didn't have time. It's just that we weren't getting along in a lot of ways, and spending 5 days together on the road wasn't at the top of our list. Here's why. In birth order, my son, Nate, is Republican. The next oldest is an independent. The next is a Democrat, and then I have a Democratic Socialist and a Libertarian. You can't make this up. I call it a parenting win, when your kids grow up and find their own political identities. But it didn't feel like anyone was winning. Now, to round it out, I'm a moderate Republican, and my husband is a conservative Republican. Over the last few years, you can understand now how having all of these different political identities created some problems for us in communicating. And it was the contempt that was surrounding us in the culture that was really starting to creep into our conversations. We each followed different social media channels. We each looked at different memes on Instagram. And as we tried to communicate with each other, unfortunately, that contempt was creeping into our conversations as well. And so what I want to talk about today is to have us take a look at this culture of contempt and how it's harmful for our communications, and learning this lesson that we've learned in my family about contempt.
So I got to get the contact information so I can get my own portrait done. Tammy has still not given me that, so if you guys can email her and tell her to do that, that would be awesome. One of the first things I want you guys to know about the Dignity Index is we don't think it's our disagreements that are causing the division in the country or in our families. We think it's how we treat people when we disagree, how we view them. Now, Arthur Brooks, he is a happiness scientist, and he says that we have a cultural addiction to contempt. And it's an addiction abetted by the outrage industrial complex. It's tearing us apart. If we want to solve the polarization problem of today, then we need to solve the contempt problem. We think contempt is the main thing that is tearing us apart as a country. So what is contempt? We believe contempt is the expression of disdain or disgust when we want to send the message to the other side that they are beneath us. Basically, it's saying, I am better than those people. Anyone heard of John Gottman? Oh, you too. Okay, great. So John Gottman is a psychologist. He spent the last 30 years researching marriages. Basically, he's been looking at what keeps them together, what makes them fall apart, and he says that contempt is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Basically, when contempt enters into your relationship, it's really hard to recognize any positive qualities that your partner has. It makes it virtually impossible to solve a problem. Now, we think this is true of marriages. We also think it's true of friendships, our workplaces. I think it's true on campus culture. Now, we think contempt is what drives us apart. We also think that dignity is what can bring us back together again. So a lot of this is based off of Dr. Donna Hicks' research. She's a conflict resolution expert. And basically, her job for the past 30 or 40 years has been to go around the world, sit with groups that have been warring with each other, and try and get them to reconcile. Now, I'm really happy someone is doing this job, and I'm really happy it isn't me. And she says the one component that is absolutely necessary in conflict resolution is dignity. When she gets with these groups, they won't talk about shame, they won't talk about trust, they won't talk about trauma, but when she brings up dignity, it's like magic enters the room. And suddenly, people are able to describe what they've been through and how they feel. She says, if indignity tears us apart, dignity can put us back together again. So, what is dignity? Dignity is the inherent worth that we all have from birth. It's a very simple definition. A lot of people might confuse this with civility or respect. Here's the thing about respect. Respect is something that you can earn. Dignity is inherent. It can never be taken away. It's different. So, I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I've sat in front of many groups, and everyone's like, yeah, we want less contempt and more dignity. But that doesn't always naturally translate. Even though everyone agrees on that, we're still in a situation where contempt seems to be the prevailing attitude in the country. So we created the Dignity Index. It's an 8-point scale that measures what we do when we disagree. Basically, it's really hard to maximize what we don't measure. If we don't measure it, how can we improve on it? So what I want you guys to know is this is about moments of conflict. This isn't about labels for people. So I'm not like an average of a 4, and David's not an average of a 7. We all move up and down the scale all day, every day. Basically, this is about those specific moments when we are disagreeing with someone. So I'm going to take you guys through the scale, and I'm going to have David pass out some of our Dignity Index cards. I'm going to start on the contempt side because it's easiest to understand it as it accelerates. And if you guys are online, you can find our scoring guide at dignity.us. It's going to be very helpful to see that while we go through this. All right, so out of 4, David? Everyone has one?
Or they should. Does everybody have something?
Oh, that's hilarious. You guys all have them. Okay. He needs one. Raise your hand if you don't, and he'll come around and bring it to you. So starting at a 4, this is our entry point of contempt. This is what I most commonly would see in YouTube comments a couple of years ago. We may have gotten a little worse since then. Basically, at a 4, we think we're better than those people. We're going to highlight the ways that we are not alike. We're going to highlight the ways that we are different. We're going to deny any similarities. And we think we're above those people. Basically, when I was on campus, I was probably a 4 at how I viewed all the business students. I was like, these business students don't really know what's up. Political science, we're actually trying to change the country. You guys are trying to make a buck. That would be a 4. At a 3, we start questioning the morality of the other side. We think we're the good people, and those people are the bad people. We're responsible for all the good things in the world. They're responsible for all the bad things. It's us versus them. So basically, if you say, gosh, those people are bad, they don't know what's up, that's probably more of a 3. At a 2, and I really hope that the 2s are rare on campus, this is when we start thinking that the other side is evil and that they are going to destroy us. The other side is an existential threat. At a 1, we think that the other side is not even human. This is often the language of genocide. This is the language of violence. We think the other side isn't human, and it's our moral duty to destroy them before they destroy us. Now, I hope you guys don't see this on campus a lot. I will say, ever since I've started this project, anytime there is a major international conflict or even national conflict, you will see these 1s and 2s everywhere, particularly all over social media. It's pretty remarkable. All right, guys, to the 5. This is the dignity side of the scale. At a 5, we believe the other side has a right to be here and be heard. It's their country too. We're not necessarily looking for points of agreement. We're just acknowledging the other side. At a 6, we start looking for common ground. So basically, I'm going to try and find our common values and work off of those. I may even develop friendship with you based off those common values. At a 7, this was the best part for me. This is when we fully engage with the other side. We talk about our deepest disagreements. And we're willing to admit mistakes. For me, I remember when I was on campus, a lot of the polarization conversations were basically like, try and find points of agreement and work off of those. I'm gonna tell you, at some point, I couldn't find common agreements, and I didn't know how to engage beyond that. The 7 was when I started getting curious about why they felt the way they felt, basically. At an 8, this is kind of a hard one to describe because it's very transcendent. We recognize the dignity of others, no matter what. Basically, at maximum pressure, we have every reason not to recognize the dignity of another person, and we choose to anyways. I usually tell people that if you have teens or toddlers, you have probably experienced an 8 because you can love someone that has cursed you. So we're going to go through scoring a little bit. I think I have about 4 or 5 examples for you, and I'm going to show you how to score our first passage. Then I want you guys to start scoring with me. This is our first passage. So this is a real tweet from a real congressman. We're now dealing with pure evil throughout our country, determined to destroy us. Destruct for destruction everywhere. This is the time for us to get together, come together, and beat those sources of Marxism going on. So if I were to look at my scoring guide, I'd see, okay, the front is contempt, the back is dignity. This feels pretty contemptuous to me. I'd probably go to a 4 and say, well, this says we're better than those people. They don't belong. They don't share our values. I definitely sense that, but this feels a little bit more intense. If we go to a 3, we're the good people, they're the bad people. That's definitely in this quote, but maybe it's even a little more intense. Those people are evil. They're going to ruin everything. If we let them, it's us or them. This feels probably like a 2. And if I go to a 1, they're not even human. They don't deserve to live. That just feels a little extreme. We're talking about wiping Marxism out, but we're not necessarily rallying people to go commit violence. So we'd keep this probably between a 2 and a 3. And if you can see, there's a differentiating between the 2. 2 says those people are evil and trying to ruin us. They're an existential threat. I feel like that's a 2. So that's how you guys score. You try and match the language of the scoring guide to the language of the passage. Now this next one, I'm going to have you guys try and score this one. New data shows that 988 Suicide Prevention Hotline may have saved more than 150,000 lives in its first month. Congressman Seth Moulton, Democrat from Massachusetts, and I, Republican of Utah, are thrilled to see our bipartisan bill making a difference. Now let's keep working to fight our nation's mental health crisis. So go ahead and look at your scoring guide, see what you would score it. I'll give you probably like 20 or 30 seconds to do that. All right, did anyone score this on the contempt side? I'm guessing not. How about the dignity side? Great. Who scored it a 5? No 5s. 6? Mainly 6s. How about 7? Yeah, we've got a couple of 7s. 8? Any 8s? No. Can I have someone who scored it a 6 and a 7? Tell me why. Go ahead.
I scored it a 6 specifically because of the language, because it points out that one's a Democrat and a Republican, but they both worked on the bill together. And the 6 side says we don't let our disagreements keep us from cooperating on the things we agree on.
Perfect. Go ahead.
They also use like optimistic language, like, and I are thrilled to see our bipartisan bill. Like that's very bipartisan, and they're very optimistic about it. So.
Yeah, so they're pointing about that like the other person is probably going to disagree with them on a lot of policy issues. So we know that there's an underlying disagreement, and there's optimistic language. So that was a 6, and what did you score it? 7? Did anyone else score it a 6 or 7 and see something else in here? Now, we scored it a 6. And the reason we scored it a 6 is basically exactly what we talked about. We know that these two people are working together despite their differences, but they have found a common value to work off of. I see the element of a 7, and that's seen in feels affection for their partners on the other side. They are proud of the relationship. It feels special. That's some of the optimistic language that he pointed out there. You guys ready for the next one? All right. Any Taylor Swift fans in here? Okay, remember, yeah, just you. So I want you guys to score this. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. We're looking for dignity or contempt. Taylor Swift is a psycho. She's the cancer of the music industry. Seriously, never seen such a fame-hungry, stats-obsessed artist in my life. Okay, I'm guessing most of you think this is on the contempt side. Who thinks it's a 4? 3? This row back here. 2? 1? Got a couple ones. A couple of people who are very hesitant. Anyone in between scores? Between a 2 and a 3? All right, so why'd we score it the way we did? Volunteer. Go ahead.
I did 2, because it's definitely like she's being treated like as an utter enemy, being like she's like ruining the music industry, she's a cancer. The only reason why I think we do 1 is because it doesn't seem like they are saying anything violent against her, which can be, I think, starts leading to what 1 is.
Yeah, so basically, if you didn't hear, the language conveys that she's going to ruin this industry, right? Any other explanations over here? So that was a 2, go ahead.
It was 1 because cancer is something inherently that should be destroyed. It's something that people genuinely just think shouldn't exist. So it's basically inciting that she's a cancer that should be destroyed, because what else do you do with cancer but destroy it?
Yeah, there are a lot of implications of the word cancer. So usually when I put up this score, well, most people score this a 2 or a 3, and it has to do with that word cancer. Some people say cancer is bad, that's a 3. Then some people say cancer is bad, you gotta cut that out. And that would probably be more the language of the 1 or the 2. So there should be a 2 or a 3 up here, not just that 3, but I think our team usually scores it between those 2. All right, this is our final one with me, and then we're gonna turn it over to some more pop culture references. I've sat with condemned men on death row. I have spoken with former police officers who admitted inflicting the cruelest torture. I have visited child soldiers who've committed acts of nauseating depravity. And I've recognized in each of them a depth of humanity that was a mirror of my own. What would we score this? 8. Anyone scored other than an 8? Yeah. We scored it an 8 too. Something I want you guys to notice about this quote is he's not saying, all is forgiven. These people do not need to be held with justice. He's admitting what they have done and saying he recognizes a depth of humanity that mirrors his own. The Dignity Index is not about, being kind to one another or being civil. It is about how we disagree, but we want to recognize the humanity of others. So I'm going to turn it over to David here, who's going to take us through some Ted Lasso.
Yeah, now that Madeline has explained the problem and the solution, we'll be doing some more practicing. So who in here has seen Ted Lasso?
couple people. Well, hopefully we don't spoil it for people who haven't seen it then. Great show. A little background of the show and what we'll be scoring from the show. Ted is an English soccer coach, and he has an assistant, Nate Shelley. Nate feels underappreciated later on in the season and leaves to go for a rival team. He's the coach of another team. And in the clips we'll be watching, Ted has taken his team on an unusual field trip in the underground sewer of London. And Nate, the coach from the other team now, publicly criticizes him. So while we watch this clip, be thinking of what you would score what's being said.
So, Shelley, would you like to comment on the new picture of AFC Richmond that's just showed up online? What picture?
I think I know where the team's gone.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to me. Probably have to train in a sewer because their coach is so shitty.
All right, so the quote again, they probably have to train in the sewer because their coach is so garbage.
This is a BYU.
True, you never know. So what we're gonna do here is Madeline had you score individually. We're gonna have you turn to the people next to you, person next to you, and discuss what you would score this and why. So I'll give you a minute to do that, and then we'll talk about it. Let's bring it back. Who scored this a 4? A 3? A 2? Okay. Our team scores it a 3. If you scored it a 3, what elements did you see? Yeah.
So in 3 it says, makes a personal attack on the other targeting performance. And that's kind of what he did. He called him shit, so.
Yeah, great. I love the interaction that happens in Ted's response here, so let's take a look at that.
Have any response to the comments made earlier today by your former assistant coach, Nathan Shelley?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, he came and got us, didn't he? No doubt about that. Hey, but that's Nate the Great for you. You know, he's the same way on the pitch. You know, he'll find the tiniest little weakness in a team and just want to attack that. Yeah. I mean, he's a junkyard dog, man. And smart. They're real lucky to have him over there at West Ham. I wish him the best of luck.
Cool. All right, the quote again up here. We're going to do the same practice. Turn again to the person sitting next to you or people sitting next to you and try to figure out what you would score it using the language from the index. different elements. Who scored it a 5? 6, 7, 8. All right, we have a range. Our team scores it a 7. But what's interesting, and I heard a comment back here, and Madeline talked about this as well. It does have elements of a 6 and a 7, but he is also under maximum pressure, which could score even higher on the index. Thank you guys for working through that and talking about that and challenging each other on what you think. As we've taught the Dignity Index and its principles, we've noticed 3 effects that happen. The electrifying effect, people get excited for a framework to use when they disagree with people. The agency effect, people feeling empowered that they have a tool that they can use to be part of the solution. And probably one of the more important effects is the mirror effect, that at first it seems like a tool that we can use to score other people, to judge other people, but in reality it's a tool to look at our own language and how we're interacting in disagreements.
Well, speaking of judging other people, this is the original pilot project group, and if you look in the background, you'll notice that this is a University of Utah group. So we actually started at the U in 2022. So basically what they did, in combination with the University of Utah Policy Institute, the Gardner Policy Institute, and the Hinckley Institute, collaborated to basically say, let's take 22 students who are ideologically different and give them some passages from the midterm elections and see if they can come to an agreement on what the score is for each of these passages. So that's exactly what we did. And over time, it was really interesting because I noticed that, some of these Republican, guys, I'm a dirty liberal. I should have like really bright blue hair. But I noticed that some of the Republicans that I would say I would disagree with their policies, I started noticing dignity in their statements. And some of the Democrats that I did agree with policy-wise, I noticed some contempt in their statements. And it's funny because I would typically ignore that because I agree with the policy, right? How they say it may not matter as much. But suddenly, the way people were conducting themselves was incredibly important to me. And a lot of people on this project found that same thing. So I'm just going to point it out. Hey, look, there's David. There's me. And then here's Preston, who's not here. But I want you guys to know that I am the blue-haired liberal. He is the buttoned-up conservative Christian dude. And what happened is we actually agreed on the Dignity Index so much that we basically texted everyone who said, maybe we can keep this going. Like, I feel like I've had better conversations during this Dignity Index project than I've ever had in my political science classes, than I've ever had in my psychology classes, sociology, or criminology. Suddenly, people were willing to open up in a way I hadn't seen before, and he noticed the same thing. So, along with David and a couple of these people, we started Students for Dignity to do that on campus and to continue that work. Now, obviously, I'm standing in front of you here. I'm working in higher education. This is not just a University of Utah initiative anymore. This has gone national. Actually, it's gone global because we're working internationally now. So there's a little bit of University of Utah pride for you guys, or me. Basically, we did that pilot project back then with students, but we thought, all right, these are a bunch of students in Utah. Maybe let's see what the nation thinks about this. So we did something called a National Citizens Panel. So we took a truly diverse group from across the country and we said, hey, you know that election that's going on in 2024, the presidential one? I don't know if you guys remember that one. It was a little contentious. We asked them to score passages from there. And 90% of the time, they could agree on dignity and contempt. Basically, it didn't matter your political ideology. You could recognize if something was dignified or contemptuous, even if it was coming from your own side. Now, this was the most exciting thing to me, and this is people with different values and beliefs than me should be treated with dignity and respect. This was a question asked throughout our panel. So I think it was 12 weeks. And basically we had a control group that really had no idea what they were doing. And then we had our Dignity Index group that was scoring these passages. And over time, people said this is an important value, to treat people with dignity and respect. So the more we think about dignity and respect, the more we're aware of it, i.e. the Dignity Index, the more it is a conviction that we'll follow through on. Now, before we go back, well, actually, no, let's go over here. How much time do we have left? Okay. So you guys have learned how to score other people, which is all fun and dandy, but you may be thinking, how does this apply to me? So basically what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm going to take something that you might experience on campus, and I'm going to have you brainstorm a couple responses. And I'm going to put you guys in groups. So you guys are going to be a group here, you guys are a group, and you guys can kind of like break off in whatever's natural. You're going to choose your own group, and you two and you three. Basically, what I want you to do is choose a score. I'm going to have you guys be the 3. I'm going to have you two be a 5, and you're going to have to remember this yourself because I'll forget. You guys get to be a 7, and we'll have another 3 for kicks and giggles. So basically, I want you to come up with a way you're going to intervene in this situation on the scale point. This is your scenario. You're part of a group project. 2 of your peers are having a disagreement about what is needed to meet an upcoming deadline. Things are getting heated, with one peer saying to the other, "We're never going to make the deadline with this plan. I've heard the comments you've made in class, and it's pretty clear you don't have anything to contribute." And the other responds in kind. What do you do? So 2 of your classmates are fighting. So if I gave you a 3, I want you to intervene in this situation at a 3. If I gave you a 5, you're going to intervene with a 5, and a 7, you're going to intervene with a 7. Does that make sense? Hell yeah. You guys, 2 or 3 minutes. Anger out, maybe the situation you've had before, and you're like, oh, okay, this is how I'd respond now. We're going to start at our 3s. So I had a 3 on this side and 3 on that side. None of you are 3s, just the scoring. So can I?
We're going to bring the microphone to you this time, so since it's a little more collaborative, folks can capture that. So.
Yes. Folks who didn't brave the storm like you did can hear. All right, someone from the 3.
Somebody here. This is a 3 group.
Sweet. Can you hear me? Sweet.
Yep.
The way that we kind of thought about this in a different way too, is we can frame it as like a 3 question, but instead of having like us be the bad guy or us being the good guys and the rest of our group being the bad guys, we'll frame our entire group as the good guys. and paint the rest of the class as the bad guys. And so we'd frame that as like, dude, the rest of the class is like sucks. Like they can't even put a project together. Like recognize what we're doing a little better. Like, hey, we actually have like somewhat of a plan. Like, do we want to mess up and become like the rest of them that are like super bad? So that's one way we framed it. Do you guys have any other comments?
I think that's pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
that's next level right there. That's not Dignity 101, that's Dignity 5000. That's a play on basically how contempt could really rally people, right? We're not denying that contempt is like completely useless. There's a reason people use it. And it's really effective at group building and also getting people to do what you want, right? Excellent example. Everybody. All right, let's do our threes over here.
Yeah, so we just thought of ours like as like an on the fly comeback, and it's like at least I came up with the plan and did the work correctly. Did you even try?
I love it.
Just simple and to the point.
Yeah, and it's like also assuming like, come on, guys. I love that. That's a great 3. Okay, who were my were you guys 5s?
All right. As 5s, we're not really going to make any effort to seek common ground with anyone, but we're going to speak openly and respectfully. So we were thinking of something like, okay, guys, I know you're disagreeing, but how about we just do what we've been doing so far and have our own separate work and try to just get past this.
I'm going to acknowledge everyone here, and we're going to try and just get through this. Nice 5. All right. Did I have another 5 over here? 7s? See, I told you I wouldn't remember.
We basically said that we would be like, hey, well, I don't know, we didn't really like talk to y'all, but I'm guessing y'all like kind of said the same thing. But we were like, oh, I think like both plans like have good aspects. Like, let's try to like make a new plan, maybe like combine ideas. I think like both plans could maybe work, but let's try to make a new one.
Ooh, let's throw everything out that we've worked on and start new. I actually really like that 7 because you're also acknowledging basically the strengths of everyone that they bring to the table, particularly after an insult. Any other people who had a great comeback that want to speak into the microphone? Okay. I love that 7. Also, the 7s can be very difficult because what happens is usually a 7 response means that there's going to be a back and forth dialogue, right? Sometimes you start at the 5, like, hey guys, like we got to get through here. And then you can work your way up and be like, all right, what's actually going on right now? Because there seems to be part of the story that I'm missing. Perfect, good job. All right, here's our next one. This is about the roommates. Earlier in the week, you were chatting with 2 roommates. The mood was light and everyone was joking around. In the middle of the conversation, one roommate made a comment that seemed to cross the line. It was meant as a joke, but it felt a little too personal. You laughed it off at the time, but it's been a few days and the comment is still bothering you. You don't want to make a big deal out of it or make anyone feel bad, but you want to say something. What do you say? I should have a middle one in here. There it is, okay. So my 3s, we're gonna flip you all the way over to a 7. Do you guys want to play with contempt or would you like to be a 6? I can let you choose. 4. Or 4, okay. You guys get to be a 4. Choose dignity when you can, everybody. All right, this group, you guys already did a 6. Yeah, you already did the 7. Would you like to be a 4? You guys want to be the 6? Everyone, contempt. start with our contempt because it's easiest to climb up the scale. You guys were our 4s. I appreciate it's jogging the memory very well for me. All right. Do you want the, yes. Sorry, mic runner. I like to make people run sometimes back and forth.
Okay, we basically said that like we're just like not gonna even acknowledge them and be like, yeah, they're not really worth talking to. But like if someone asks about it, we're gonna be like, yeah, no, they're rude. So like you don't like care that much, but like if someone brings it up, you're gonna be like, yeah, I don't really like my roommate.
I think that's a great response. One of the characteristics of a 4 can be conflict avoidance, right? I'm just gonna, either move on from this or we're not gonna bring it up because it's not worth preserving that relationship. And one of the things I'm sure you all have understood is when you do that, it tends to fester and get worse. Because instead of it being moving on like you think it is, you're actually making your case for probably more contempt. That was a great 4. I heard you say that almost immediately when you guys turned together, and I was like, it's the conflict avoidance. Good job. All right, let's do, you guys.
Okay, ours was like pretty similar, but I guess maybe not complete like avoidance, but just like no one like cares what you say, like, or if someone brings up like no one cares what she says, like it's just my dumb roommate or something like that.
I don't care about you. You're not like the rest of us. You're dumb. You make stupid comments. That's a great 4. All right, and then you guys were a 7.
This one was a little hard to go at because it's like you don't feel right, but as 7, that's like the humility phase, and it's kind of hard to put that down. But we kind of came up with, I know that I laughed at that joke the other day, but it's been bugging me a bit. I know I shouldn't have laughed at it. Do you mind if we talk about it? Just like opening up trying to open up a conversation, showing like just like how you're initially feeling and showing that you don't want to attack, you just want to talk.
I love it. Yeah, no, talking about our deepest disagreements, or even in this case where something just like makes your gut feel bad, is not going to be easy. Dignity, and particularly when we go up the scale, is very, very difficult to actually do. All right, so we've got this beautiful sound of the snow plows in the background, and we're gonna have that while our 6s tell us what's going on. Who wants to do a 6?
Okay, for 6, we basically said, like, we'd approach it, like, with positive stuff first. Be like, oh, like, I had a really good time hanging out with you the other day. Like, it was really fun. But, like, that one thing you said kind of bothered me, like, bringing it up. And then we also said, like, if they came back, like, defensive, we'd, like, back off immediately. Because in 6, it's like they tend to retreat when finding areas of strong disagreement. So just, like, beating around the bush a little bit, but, like, also, like, letting them know it bothered you.
Yeah, I want to preserve something, but I'm not necessarily willing to get too into that. That may be a little too much. It's a perfect 6. Wow, thank you guys. I appreciate all of your comments, and I will probably be using them in the future when I talk to other audiences. So, we've taken you through how to score people and how to score yourself and how to apply it. And I want to leave you with this one message. And this is basically the secret weakness of contempt. And it's when we use contempt, it's hard to see it. When we start to see it, it's hard to use it. The Dignity Index helps us see it. Now, sorry, not sorry, there may be a couple of things in your life you walk away from and you're like, maybe I need to approach that situation differently. So when I was on the original pilot project, I remember I had been trained on the index. So I was really excited to start using my Dignity Index to point at those people and be like, look at you, you're ruining the country with all of your contempt. That's a total 3. And I remember one morning I was getting ready for class and I was going through my typical routine. I was listening to my favorite political commentator on YouTube. And I remember he was talking about current events. He was keeping out a 5, which I was like, fabulous, that's great. But then he started talking about senators from the other party. And he started characterizing them. He was talking about them at a 4 level and then a 3. And I remember he went They are pigs. I thought to myself, wow, that is contempt, but it is nasty contempt at that. The funny thing is, though, I always knew that he'd used some kind of like charged, colorful language. And I also knew that it definitely ruffled a few feathers on the other side. I didn't care because I thought I was right. This morning was a little different for me. I knew he was using contempt, and I knew there was another way he could say the exact same thing without using contempt. That's what the Dignity Index is about. It's about being aware of what we are using. So I hope you guys are able to reflect on that and maybe use it in your classes. I also hope you guys are willing to take our 2-minute survey, because I am losing and I want my $15 Amazon gift card. And David and I aren't doing the best. So please take the 2-minute survey. And also, if you want to ask any questions about the index, I can try and answer them.
Throw some Q&A out there if you have it.
No questions. I did perfect. Oh.
The contempt, do you think contempt comes from, or the contempt is amplified nowadays because of social media and how it's like you're trying to go for clicks? So like when you see, for example, a political commentator go like, oh, they're all pigs. Do you think when they say that, do you have to realize, okay, maybe they're not saying this isn't maybe what they actually mean? Maybe they're saying this for clicks and just the internet, or maybe not exactly just for clicks, but knowing that people are going to gravitate towards the extreme comments rather than gravitating towards like the more median, neutral, kind of more, the more dignity comments?
You know, I think social media definitely has a part in it. I will say contempt has been something that has existed and predated social media. But I mean, in the attention economy, saying contemptuous things is really attractive to people. Even if you hate it, you're on it and that algorithm picks it up. So my best bet is yes. I don't have any data about that specifically, but I would say so. Also, short form content, if you've noticed dignified statements, it takes a little bit more character count. And I don't know that Twitter allows for the character counts of 7 sometimes. It's a great question. Any others?
I don't necessarily know how to phrase this question, but I mean, I guess I'll ask a different one. I'll pivot, but like if you're approaching like a topic, should you always have like an 8 outlook, or is it acceptable to have like a 6 or a 7?
Totally acceptable to have a 6 or 7. This is not the don't ever use contempt index, but we think that if we measure it, maybe we can be a little bit more mindful about it. I slip into contempt a lot. You know, it snowed today. I was driving. I had some contemptuous thoughts. And I didn't ram my car into anyone, thank goodness, on purpose or on accident. I think sometimes all you have is a 5, right? And that's fine. A 5 is better than a 2. And not every situation calls for an 8. It's extreme pressure. And I would also say that 8s can sometimes be dangerous. So safety is probably the biggest consideration on that. Cool.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you to Madeline and David for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure, from my perspective, having representatives from the Dignity Index come in, speak with our students year after year, semester after semester. I think this is a really fascinating and important project. So I hope you take this with you and at least think about it as you go forth and into your world today. I mean, maybe you won't be doing anything too social with the snow as it is, but anyway, keep this with you. If you have questions for me or for the Dignity Index team, they might stick around for just a couple minutes. There is also some pizza left over outside if you'd like to grab some there. So with that, please join me one more time in thanking our guests.